Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Scoreboard. Yes, you are here listening live. This is the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4 is the phone number to get you into the studio. Part of the program, anything you'd like to talk about, we are here for you. And boy, do we have a lot that we can talk about today. I'm going to wait to take any phone calls until a little later on in the show because we have a lot to go over. So stick with me here. In a little bit, we'll take some phone calls if you guys want to call in. 844 Studio 4. That's 844-788-3464. Man, did we have a lot of action last night. High school playoffs. Lacrosse, baseball, women's soccer, all in action last night. We also had the NHL playoffs. The Carolina Hurricanes were in action, trying not to get eliminated. And, well, hey, they did a good job of that, as last night Carolina wins game number 5 by a score of 4-1 over the New York Rangers, the biggest win versus the Rangers so far in the series, which now sits at 3-2. We'll talk a little bit about that. NASCAR, boy, after this announcement yesterday of the in-season tournament, I don't like it. But, what are we going to do? It's going to happen. I mean, NASCAR's already decided. So we'll talk a little bit more about that today, as well as recapping Darlington, which I feel like we could have done a better job talking about that race versus just talking about the news of the day from yesterday, which was that in-season tournament. So we'll get to some NASCAR as well as the NBA. And tonight, the WNBA season begins. That means the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark are going to be in action. Caitlin Clark in her very first professional game. Well, she's had preseason games, but this is the regular season. Completely different. Regular season starts today. I'll tell you what, with everything that's going on in sports right now, with playoffs, with baseball, with the WNBA season starting, I think I'm going to have my eyes on this WNBA game, the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun. That is if we can find where it is on TV. The TV rights deal for the WNBA isn't the strongest, but it's going to get better as more eyes go to the WNBA. So, in case you're curious, if you want to watch the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun first game of the season, it's going to be on the ESPN network. So ESPN2, if you have ESPN2, or if you have a subscription to ESPN, you'll be able to find it on ESPN Plus, as well as Disney Plus, which I find interesting. The game is going to be streamed live on Disney Plus. That's at 7:30 tonight. But we got to get into the high school sports scene because there's a lot going on. Now, yesterday, there was only one lacrosse game, and I told you we're in the regionals. So if you win your regional game, guess what? You're going to play for a state championship. That one regional game was in the 1, 2, and 3A bracket, and it was in the East bracket. So not really any schools that we're familiar with here, but letting you know, Orange High School defeated Croton High School by a score of 14-9 to advance to the state championship. They will play the winner of number 4 Lake Norman Charter versus number 3 Bishop McGuinness. Now that game is going to be tonight. We're expecting that one to start right around 7 o'clock. So not immediately following the show today, but a little bit after is when we'll expect to have that game. Also, just for an update for you, as a reminder, we do have regional games today in the 4A bracket. On the east side of the state, it's going to be Green Level High School taking on Cardinal Gibbons. And right here on the west side of the state, you got Lake Norman High School, the number 2 seed and the number 2 team in the state, taking on Marvin Ridge High School, number 4, who upset Charlotte Catholic over the weekend. one of the best teams in the state. They were the number one team in the state going into that game. But we got to wait a little bit for more lacrosse news, as those games are today. We will know who our state championship games are going to be playing in that one after today. And man, am I excited, because later on in the week, we are going to have state championship games for lacrosse. So we will keep an eye on that. As far as the baseball scene goes, there were a few games here and there yesterday. A majority of them are going to be taking place today, and then there's going to be another game or two tomorrow as well. So just an update for you. All of the 1 seeds so far in the baseball playoffs have not been eliminated. Everybody has moved on, including 4A number 1 seed TC Robertson, the only one in the 4A that's already played their third round game. I'm sorry, Charlotte Catholic has also played their third round game as they beat Cox Mill High School. That was a big upset there. But all the 1 seeds are moving on in baseball so far, including 3A East Rowan, who played their third round game already, 2A Burns High School, and we still have to wait to see if the 1A 1 seed, which is Mount Airy, is going to advance or not. Like I said, a couple of games yesterday, some of them today, a few more tomorrow. Mount Airy, the 1 seed in the 1A bracket, is a school that's going to be playing tomorrow. So we got to wait a little bit longer to get the full picture of the 4th round, which is going to start later on in the week, and it'll continue into Saturday as well. But some of the schools that are still in the playoffs here in our general area is what we're going to call it now. Christ the King High School, the number 3 seed in the 1A over in Huntersville. They are moving on. They have a chance to play number 6, Union Academy. The winner of that game will go play Uwari Charter, as the 2 seed has already played their third round game. They are moving on. They beat Mountain Heritage by a score of 15-5. In the 2A bracket, we don't have too many of these local area schools left, but you got North Stanley, Forbush. I mean, these schools are kind of close. They're not really in our listening area. The 2A bracket doesn't have any of those anymore, unfortunately. Burns High School, the 1 seed, we just talked about them. They are moving on to round number 4, and the rest of the games are going to be today and tomorrow. In the 3A bracket, you have Lake Norman Charter High School playing tomorrow night against number 21 Oak Grove, and that's basically it as far as local schools go for the baseball side of things. Now, there's still a long way to go before we get to a state championships, but as far as people in our area, it wasn't the best year for baseball. Lacrosse, really good year. And we're about to get to it on the other side of this break. Women's soccer, we got a lot of talent in the area in women's soccer. We'll be back, talk about that after this break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back.
This guy knows his sports, right? There's more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, you'll still need the rain gear as we go into our Tuesday night. Scattered rain on and off as we go throughout the evening hours and overnight.
844 Studio 4. 844-788-3464. Call me. We'll chat. We can talk about sports. I love talking with the people. We're talking high school right now, but we're going to get into NASCAR. We're going to get into the NHL. Carolina Hurricanes. Hey, how you feeling, Hurricanes fans? You lost the first 3. You win the next 2. Starting to put some pressure. You're coming back home. It's never over till it's over. We're going to continue to talk about high school playoffs real quick before we move into the professional side of things with NASCAR and the NHL and the NBA, which we really haven't talked that much Major League Baseball so far. It's not quite baseball season yet, ladies and gentlemen. I know the games are happening, and I'm keeping up with it. I know what's going on in baseball. I got an hour a day to let you know what's going on in the world, right? So it's not baseball season yet. We got the NHL, the NBA, high school sports. When all of that subsides and we got a little bit more space to talk about other sports in here, we're going to bring the MLB in. Baseball season doesn't begin until the Stanley Cup gets handed out. That's just the way it is. Especially when the Carolina Hurricanes are still in the playoffs. They have not gotten eliminated yet. Back to high school sports, though. In the world of women's soccer, we started the first round yesterday. Actually, we completed the first round yesterday, as pretty much every single game has been played. Let's let you know what's going on in women's soccer. Starting with the 1A division, 1 seed Mountain Island Charter, they defeated their opponent, Carolina International Comets, by a score of 11-0, moving on to the second round. As far as locally, number 12, Christ the King High School, moves on to the second round after beating Leadership Academy. They won that game pretty handedly, actually, 3-1. Other local schools in the 1A division, well, they didn't fare all that well, actually. That's pretty much it. In the 1A scene, at least, you got South Stokes there. I recognize that school. But as far as 1A in our listening area, it wasn't the best year. It was not the best year. Now, there is a lot of areas where we did have a good year, and we're going to get to that now, being the 2A division, the number 1 seed in the 2A division, Pine Lake. Yes, that's right, where I went to high school. That women's soccer team is the number 1 seed, and they win in round number 1 against Reedsville. Final score in that one is 11-0. They move on to take on Newton Conover, who won their game over North Surrey. So Pine Lake Prep is the 1 seed. Number 18, Community School of Davidson. You know where that one is. That's over in Davidson. They won their game, and actually a little bit of an upset there, as it was an 18 seed taking down a 15 seed. They beat East Davidson out of Thomasville to move on to round number 2. Unfortunately, they run into the number 2 seed in the 2A bracket, Hendersonville. They beat Maiden High School 7-0 last night, moving them on. Lincoln Charter, unfortunately, they dropped their game against Wheatmore High School, and that rounds out the 2A division. In the 3A, you have Hebritton High School as the 1 seed. They beat West Charlotte 10-0 to move on to round number 2. North Iredell High School was able to sneak their way into the playoffs here. Unfortunately, they lost to the 9 seed Piedmont 3-0 in that game. Hickory High School is in as an 8 seed. They move on to round number 2 as well with an 8-0 win over Ledford High School. And in the 4A bracket, number 1, Watauga High School, they move on, beating Ragsdale 9-0. Mooresville High School is an 8 seed this year. They move on off after a very close game against Hickory Ridge High School, 1-0 in that game. Mooresville moving on. They'll take on number 9, Providence. Cox Middle High School is a 16 seed. Unfortunately, their season came to an end after a 2-1 loss against South Mecklenburg High School. Charlotte Catholic moves on as the 13 seed beats number 20 Page High School 5-1. It was the end of the season for Lake Norman High School, losing to Cusberson 3-0. That's a 19 seed losing to a 14 seed there. And to round things out, Huff High School, the 2 seed, wins 7-0 against Porter Ridge High School. That moves them into the second round as well. Second round games are expected to begin on Thursday. Now, I'm assuming that they're all going to be on one day, just like the first round was. But some, rain and things like that. I don't know how many of these baseball games are going to get played today with the weather the way it is. So we'll have to see what ends up happening with that tomorrow. But I will have all the updates for you tomorrow. So don't fret. You'll be okay. We're going to be good. I'm going to have all the updates for you. If there's a rain out, a reschedule, listen to the scoreboard right here on WSIC, and I will have all the information for you. And if you have a question, call me up, 844-STUDIO-4. If I don't know it, I will find out for you because I care. Let's move on from the high school ranks. I want to talk a little bit more about Darlington this weekend. Now, we didn't really bring this up yesterday. Was Darlington a good race or not? Do we drop it in the bucket of, yes, it was a good race, I enjoyed it? Or do we drop it in the Talladega bucket of, man, that was bad. That was just embarrassing. We had some drama. We had some good racing. We had a 110 race winless streak snapped. I'm going to drop Darlington in the bucket of it was a good race. Now, I don't know if it's because of the finish specifically that I'm doing that. And I know I always say you can't call a race good because of the finish. If it was, 399 laps of boring and lap 400 was great, it wasn't a good race. But I liked it. I thought Darlington was good. And, Darlington normally puts on a good product, even in these next-gen race cars, which, they're not good. We got to get rid of these things somehow. I'm curious to know if the Southern 500 is going to be just as good, because the racing at night, you hear it from the drivers, they prefer the daytime in these cars. And I think that's kind of been realized by NASCAR, where I've told you there are only 2 scheduled Saturday night races for points-paying races during the Cup season this year. By the way, there was some massive NASCAR news that dropped earlier this morning, coupled with the announcement yesterday of, hey, when we go to TNT and Amazon Prime in 2025, there's going to be this in-season tournament where the first 3 races, which are going to be on Amazon Prime, are your seeding races, and then the next 5 races on TNT are your elimination style races. This is a massive announcement here. The 2025 Coca-Cola 600 will be the first NASCAR broadcast for Amazon Prime. You heard me. The Coca-Cola 600 will no longer be on Fox. It has been taken away, and it will now be part of Amazon Prime in 2025. Meaning, if you do not have an Amazon Prime subscription, you will not be able to watch this race. It will not be on Fox. It won't be on your cable. It won't be on your satellite. You got to order Amazon Prime. This is massive news. It's the Coca-Cola 600. It's not like they took a random race in the middle of the year like Iowa and said, hey, you know what? Iowa's going to be the first race we do on Amazon Prime. No, they took one of the biggest crown jewel races of the NASCAR season, the Coca-Cola 600, and said, that's the one that's going to be on Amazon Prime. Now, this is interesting because Dale Earnhardt Jr. has actually joined the Amazon Prime booth for 2025, or at least that's what all the reports say. But man, what do you think about this? 844 Studio 4, the Coca-Cola 600 will not be on Fox. It will be on Amazon Prime. This, man, I don't know if this is a good move for NASCAR. And on the other side of the break, I want to talk about what would happen if that happened this year. Let's say this year we had the Amazon debut and we had the in-season tournament debut. What would that look like as far as the schedule and where these races would fall? Let's talk about that on the other side of the break. So don't go anywhere. We're also going to talk about the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes. They're not dead yet. They're not dead yet. And we'll get into some NBA playoffs if we have the time at the end of the show. You're listening to The Scoreboard. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this.
100.7 WSIC.
All right, second half of the program here on this beautiful Tuesday. Yeah, it's a little rainy out there, but it's still a beautiful day. You got to open your eyes this morning. 844 Studio 4. That's 844-788-3464. Call me up if you have something you want to talk about. We're talking about this in-season tournament for NASCAR. Even when I say it now, a day later, it doesn't sound real. In-season tournament, NASCAR. It feels like it doesn't go together, if you ask me. Okay, but that's just me. I'm not in charge of NASCAR. Plus the announcement today that Amazon Prime's first race next year is going to be the Coca-Cola 600. Leaving Fox, it will now be a part of the Amazon Prime broadcast schedule. Now, there is going to be a switch next year when it goes to Amazon Prime. It's going to go Amazon Prime, there's Fox, NBC, TNT. They're all going to have part in the coverage of the 2025 season. Now, let's look at the schedule for this year. Coca-Cola 600 is coming up soon. We got the All-Star race this weekend, and then we got the Coca-Cola 600 the following weekend, Sunday, May the 26th. Here's the thing. I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm trying to place where these races in the in-season tournament would fall, and what kind of a tournament would we be looking at. If we use this year's schedule for next year, which it probably is not going to happen, the first three races are for seeding. So the Coca-Cola 600, the race at Worldwide Technology Raceway, and Sonoma would be your three seeding races. Elimination race number 1 would be Iowa Speedway. Elimination race 2 would be New Hampshire. Third race would be Nashville Speedway. Elimination race number 4. This would technically be like the round of 4, the final 4. The Chicago Streets race. Oh, the Chicago Street race and the championship, quote unquote, in-season tournament championship race would be at Pocono. That's not a good list of tracks, if you ask me. So I would highly expect for the NASCAR schedule for next year to change. You got to get Chicago out of there. There shouldn't be a street race in this thing. Sonoma being a qualifier, a seeding race, sure, leave that. Pocono, though? Pocono Championship? The week after Pocono is the Brickyard 400, and we're going back to the oval, right? So you might see that change. I could see them moving the Brickyard up a week to July 14th. There's really no special July 4th race this year. It's July 4th, and then July 7th is the Cup race from Chicago. It's the street race again. I think we should put Daytona there again. I do. I think we got to get Daytona back in July. Now, I understand why they did that because, weather with Daytona. And I keep saying this, they just need to build tents over all of these racetracks. Just giant tents to keep the rain off the track. It's a very simple solution. No, obviously I'm joking. But if you look at the schedule, Charlotte, Worldwide Technology, WWT Raceway as they call it, and Sonoma would be your qualifying races. Iowa, New Hampshire, Nashville, Chicago, and Pocono would be the elimination races. I don't like it. I don't think that's a good list of tracks for a fun tournament that you're trying to have. Throw Bristol in there. I don't know. Mess up the schedule. They obviously don't care anymore. So mess it up. Just destroy the schedule. Put it in a blender. Shuffle everything around. Maybe we'll have a weekend where it's Daytona, then Talladega, then Daytona again. Doesn't that sound fun? And don't forget, we got to throw Atlanta in there somewhere too. Anyway, terrible. Here's some better news for you. We're going to leave the NASCAR topic on some good news. Jimmy Johnson will be joining the NBC Sports booth for 4 races in 2024. Those 4 races it's going to be this year, by the way. He's going to be doing the championship race in Phoenix, Daytona, Talladega. And as far as the 4th race, I had it right here. They don't have a race yet for the 3rd one. So the ones that are official are the Coke Zero 400 from Daytona, the Yellowwood 500 from Talladega, the championship race in Phoenix, and one of 3 races in the round of 12. We don't know what race it's going to be, but it'll be one of the round of 12 races. Now, if you look at the schedule, the round of 12, Kansas, Talladega, and Charlotte. So I'm assuming it's anything but Talladega. It's going to be nice to have Johnson back in the booth, or Johnson in the booth for the first time. We lost Dale Jr. with NBC this year. He left. Some information that I saw was that he wasn't happy with how NBC wanted them to do the coverage, having to do with watching the race itself versus watching the monitors in the booth, which, I can understand that. You want to watch the race. I get it. But Jimmy Johnson will be joining. Okay, here's another thing about this. He's going to do his own version of the double, quote unquote, the double, which Kyle Larson is doing the double. He's doing the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. Jimmy Johnson will be part of the pre-race coverage for Indianapolis that morning, and then he will be competing in the Coke 600. So that's pretty cool. You got 2 NASCAR drivers who are going to be working, we'll call it working, the Indianapolis 500. And then they're going to come race for 600 miles here in, I want to say in Charlotte, but we know it's not in Charlotte. It's in Concord. Concord Motor Speedway. Yeah, that's right. Get your naming right. And it's the Staples Center. It's not the Crypto.com arena. Gosh. I know. Everything I'm saying is wrong. It's not true. Anyway, hey, by the way, there's a chance that you might not have to hear me anymore because maybe one day I'll be the coach of the Carolina Panthers. Did you see this news today? Doug Gottlieb, who is a sports media personality, he just landed a job coaching college basketball. He is going to be Green Bay University's next basketball coach. So I'm putting my name in the pot. David Tepper, Mr. Sports Media coverage guy right here at WSIC, next coach of the Carolina Panthers. What do you think? I got to get some support from you guys, right? A little bit of support. I mean, I can't do worse than last year, right? Maybe it's a little too soon to joke about that. 844-STUDIO-4 is the phone number. We're going to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. I promise. We'll be back for the final segment right after this.
Now more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
We're back here on the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4 is the phone number. Man, oh man, is that in-season tournament for NASCAR something, huh? If you want to sound off about that, you can always call me up at 844-788-3464. It seems like I do have a caller on the line here, so let's go ahead, bring in our caller on the line. Caller, you're here on the Scoreboard. What do you got for me today?
Good afternoon, Joe Berg. It's
Hey,
the
hey.
Tar Heel Man.
How are you today?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing just fine. I can't complain.
Yeah. Hey, I'll throw a little conversation out there about I'm with you. I don't think the in-season NASCAR, I don't think that's such a great idea. They're just trying to do too many things like a lot of these other sports, and I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know. Adds one more piece to the drama, I guess.
Yeah, they're trying. And you know what? The thing that I read yesterday from their press release about this new in-season tournament, when they said that they were trying to drive fan engagement through production, they lost me. It's better to drive fan engagement through maybe, I don't know, good racing, drivers with personality, something like that. Might be a little easier.
Right. Hey, I wanted to get your take, too. I know it's kind of switching gears here, but I know you don't really have a golf segment, but got the big PGA Tour Championship being played this week, one of the four majors. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Do you follow the golf at all, or?
Yeah, I do a little bit. I saw that Tiger is going to be trying to play, and it looks like he's going to be paired with Adam Scott and Keegan Bradley for that. So nice to see that. Also, Scotty Scheffler, he should be there. He's now a new dad. I know that was a big story with the Masters.
Yeah.
And he'd say, hey, I will leave if I have to. And then he won the Masters and won the next weekend as well. But
right.
Yeah, I know the PGA is going to be coming up here this weekend. I don't have a prediction. I just kind of like seeing who's good. I want to see Tiger win one more before he goes. So I'm always going to root for Tiger when I see him out there. But as far as a prediction, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to predict a golf win.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I just like to see, when the live guys get in there and play and kind of mix it up a little bit. Brooks Koepka, and just I don't really like his attitude, but I like his game. He always seems to show up for these majors and, put on a good performance. I think he's won like 9 times on the old tour, and 5 of those were majors. So, he's just seems like he's always in contention. But Scheffler, I mean, we'll see after his little break he's had some downtime if that affects his game at all. But, I think it'll be him and Brooks will be right up there at the top, probably battling out by the end of the weekend. Tiger, he has some good games at times, but just 4 days straight on that bad leg and bad foot and stuff, he just can't seem to do it. He's got too many injuries to be able to. Not saying that he won't ever do it, but just right now, I just don't think he's healthy enough with his legs and everything.
Yeah, I agree. It's taken a toll on him over the years. And, I kind of disagree with you a little bit about Brooks Koepka. Like maybe you don't like his attitude, but I think he did a great job when he was beefing with Bryson DeChambeau of at least bringing eyes to the sport of golf, because that was probably the biggest story besides Live and all the drama with Live Golf. That was one of the biggest stories in golf that I can remember of a long time, where people are actually talking about it.
Right. Yeah. No, that did bring some good, attention to the sport and all that. I mean, as far as, create a little bit of drama, I guess, between the
Yeah,
players and people were talking about it and all that. So it's just, kind of interesting between the two tours now, the live and all that. I wish they would kind of get something worked out where, the better guys can continue to play, on the tour and play the majors, if they're performing well in these other
right,
tournaments. I
right.
mean, to me, it's like, kind of work out some kind of a system where that could continue because there is still some great players on that side as well. So
There are, and they need to work out whether or not live golfers are going to actually be counted towards the world golf rankings. I know that's still been a problem where they're
right,
not really counting those golfers right now in the rankings. So there's still a
right,
lot that needs to be worked out with golf.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely. But it still makes it interesting. I
You're
guess for
right.
those of us that like golf and kind of keep up with it a little bit. Just something else to kind of talk about till basketball season comes back around.
Oh,
But
I know you're itching for that. I know you
yeah,
can't wait.
yeah, yeah. Okay, buddy. Well, I'll let you go. Good talking to you, and hope you have a good night.
Great to hear from you again. You have a great night as well. I appreciate the call. And if anybody else wants to call up and chime in, anything you want to talk about, 844 Studio 4. That's 844 788 3464. Maybe you're still on a high from last night's New York Ranger Carolina Hurricane game. Carolina Hurricanes traveling on the road to Madison Square Garden for game number 5, trailing the series 4-1. Well, they finally got a win at Madison Square Garden in the playoffs with a 4-1 dominating victory over the New York Rangers. They went into the third period down 1-0, and they were able to come around and score 4 goals on the Rangers in that third period. Now, this is a game just like game 1, just like game 2, and just like game 3, where the Carolina Hurricanes outplayed the New York Rangers. They were the better team out there. Unlike games 1, 2, and 3, they were finally able to get the puck past Igor Shesterkin, who had been standing on his head for the entire series. Now, and ESPN loves to talk about this. Ryan McDonough, the play-by-play there, he loves to talk about this. They finally snapped the Igor Shesterkin 3 goals or less streak in the playoffs at home in Game 4, and then they snapped the streak in New York. He had gone 17 straight home games without giving up more than 3 goals in the playoffs. They get 4 goals in Game 4, 4 goals in Game 5, and this is what I said they need to do if they're going to win the series. They have to score more than 3 goals. They cannot hope that the Rangers score 1 goal like they did here yet last night. Now, yes, the Rangers did only score 1 goal, and yes, Carolina scored more than 3. If they would have stopped at 2, they would have won. But it's still important to get those goals to show that you can put it past the goaltender, Igor Shesterkin, because he is the difference maker in the series. And no, he didn't outplay Freddie Anderson. No, Freddie Anderson did not outplay Igor Shesterkin. They played about how they were supposed to play last night. When you look at all the advanced metrics and all the stats and all those fun things that people like to say, it's all about the statistics and the data now. Well, the data showed the Rangers should have lost and Carolina won that game 4-1. Well, the actual final score of that game was 4-1. Now, there are some things we could talk about with Carolina, how they went 0-3 on the power play. Not great, but the New York Rangers also had 3 power plays, and they didn't have a goal either. They went 0-3 on their power play. In the series, though, this is the weird thing. Carolina has scored 1 power play goal in the series. The New York Rangers have 2 shorthanded goals in the series. In the playoffs, as a whole, the New York Rangers have allowed 3 power play goals, and they have 4 shorthanded goals. So maybe scoring on the power play isn't what we need to be looking at. The good news for Carolina, they dominated period number 3. And I mean dominated period number 3. The entire period was basically in their offensive end. And they kept the Rangers off the goal sheet on the power play. Like I've been saying, that is going to be one of the biggest things to keep an eye on in this series. Keeping the Rangers off of the goal sheet on the power play and scoring goals. Not scoring 2, not scoring 3, but scoring 3, scoring 4, 5. Maybe they could put up 5 in the next game. You never know. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today to the Scoreboard. Real quick, before we get out of here, let's go ahead and get at least one thing on this day in sports history. On this day in 1996, controversial pitcher Dwight Gooden no-hit the Seattle Mariners 2-0 at Yankee Stadium. That was on this day, 1996. We are out of time here on the Scoreboard. Go watch the WNBA tonight. Caitlin Clark making her debut. I know I'll have my eyes on it. Maybe you will too. And we'll talk about it tomorrow, as well as all the high school playoffs, NBA playoffs. We'll get to it. We will. You've been listening to the Scoreboard. I'm out of here for the night. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, have a great night, everyone.